Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can watch us on YouTube and Rumble while following us on Facebook, or find us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcasts can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for past episodes, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe or follow today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Hey, good day, everybody, wherever you might be on the spaceship we call Earth. Welcome to Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. I'm your host, Reverend Dr. Paul Meckes. If this is your first time tuning in, please click subscribe, like, share, comment, and also don't forget to follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Today, effortless success, nature's secrets to thriving. This is going to be an interesting show. That's what this network is all about. We have today a teacher, speaker, writer, and researcher. He went from millionaire to homelessness before discovering the true reason we succeed and fail in our life. How we use our brain, creator of the 4-part brain model and brain rebalancing, and the host of the Let Yourself Off the Hook podcast. He will show you how your brain is designed to ensure you are the best you can be if you use it the right way. And he says, we are not in control of our life. Our brain is. Let's welcome to the podcast, The Seance, for the very first time, Liam Naden. Welcome, brother. How you doing?
Hi there. Very well, thank you. Thanks for the wonderful introduction.
I keep getting better every day, you know. It's just it's just practicing over and over and over again. But I tell you what, the work that you do, I am intrigued, and I've got some very interesting questions. So from your own life, how did you discover this secret?
Well, you know, I've been one of the people, probably like you and many of the people listening or watching, that through most of my life, I've been really driven to have a great life, even from a young age. I always wanted to have, you know, I didn't want to be ordinary and just do something mundane. I wanted to have an exciting life. I wanted to find success. I wanted to be the best person I could be and be rich and, you know, not necessarily famous, but certainly have freedom to do adventure, make life into an adventure. So I got into my own businesses, and I've had lots of different businesses throughout my life, but I also got into the whole area of studying success. And I became absolutely fanatical about trying to understand what success was all about. And it took me down all sorts of rabbit holes. I used to go to lots of seminars with all of the self-help gurus. You know, I'd go all around the world to seminars. I even went to your lovely area in Florida and did some seminars there. I was the seminar junkie, and I was taking courses on motivation and beliefs and goal setting and doing all these things, and how to rewire your beliefs and how to rewire your subconscious mind for success. And affirmations, you know, carrying pieces of paper around and reading statements about yourself and visualizing and doing all of these things. And I also studied everything, the whole spiritual area, like meditation and all of these practices, such, you know, the law of attraction and how we manifest our reality and all these sorts of things. And I became a real expert on all of this stuff. Really, I'd read all the books, if you like. I could quote the gurus better than they could themselves. And I didn't just learn the stuff, I really tried and applied it. You know, if someone said to me, try this technique, I really worked at it because I wanted to find out what worked.
Yeah.
And I did become successful. I became a multi-millionaire. I had, you know, everything I thought I wanted. But I got to the point where I'd reached all my goals. And in fact, I remember sitting down one day in a brand new home that I'd just finished building. wasn't quite finished, but it was my dream home. And I sat down and I said to myself on this beautiful day, this is it. I've made it. All of my dreams, all of my goals, everything I thought I wanted, I've got it. I've got the house. I've got the businesses. I've got the freedom to go anywhere I want to go. But what I don't have is any joy, any happiness, because I actually felt absolutely terrible in that moment. I was so stressed. I had so many problems. And I came to think, I said to myself, I remember thinking, is this really what it's all about? Why is it that I've been chasing after success, but I'm so miserable and I can't solve all my problems? I've still got all these things going wrong in my life. And yet really what I really want is to be able to be in control of my life.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, look, I'd rather give this all away, get rid of absolutely everything I have, as long as I keep my soul. Because it felt like my soul was being driven out of me. You know, it was like my energy was draining out. And literally within a few weeks, you know, they say you have to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Within a few weeks, I did lose everything. It all collapsed. I lost the house, my businesses, my marriage, and I ended up having to move in with my elderly mother and sleep on the sofa in her living room with nothing. You know, she had to go out to work to buy my food. And I got to this really low place of trying to figure out why it had all happened to me, because I was an expert on success. I had all my goals written out. I had my visualization. I knew about the subconscious mind and, you know, programming it and doing all these things. But it was never on my goals list to lose it all and be homeless. So I thought, I'm completely confused by what's going on here and why this has happened to me. And I also had no clue on what to do to get out of it, which again I thought was strange, because everything I'd learned about how to be successful was you visualize what you want, you figure out what you want. And I'd been to so many workshops on how to work out and how to figure out what you want in your life, but I was totally confused. So I took a different approach and my life changed really quite quickly in a very dramatic way. And instead of me really struggling and trying to find success, it was like success was coming after me. And I started doing some amazing things. I found a new relationship, I found a new business, I found a couple of new businesses. Then I went off and sailed around the world for 8 years, all the while managing my businesses. And I remember I was in the Greek islands on my yacht one day, and I got out of the water and there was a beautiful day and there were no other boats around, and I'd just been for a swim. And I thought, I had the same sort of thought that I'd had all those years earlier in the house, which is, why has this happened to me? And is this what it's all about? But the difference was, I felt amazing. And I really knew this was what it's all about. This was what life was supposed to be. Not just great on the outside, but really great on the inside. Feeling like you are living your purpose. You wake up every day inspired and looking forward to the day rather than dreading opening your email. Because everything was working really well for me. And that's when I decided, despite all of those things that I'd learnt, I was doing something different. Because I said, how come I used to set my goals, I used to visualize, I used to do all of these things, and it not only caused me a lot of stress and problems, but I lost everything in spite of it. But now I'm not going after any goals. I'm not setting any goals. I'm not expecting anything. I'm not going after opportunities. I'm not really doing anything other than doing what shows up in my life, taking part or interacting, if you like, with the life that comes to me. And it's working so much better. And that's when I decided I need to figure out what I'm doing differently. It's not what all of the gurus told me to do. It's something different. And that sent me down the track of really figuring out what I was doing differently, because, of course, I didn't want to stop doing it. I wanted to know what I was doing right. So I kept doing it. Yeah. And that led me into a completely different area, which really, to me, was the missing link as to how we get the results we do in our life. And that's what I share with people now.
That segues too in my next question is, you say setting goals is unnatural and sabotages our success. Explain how.
Well, here's the short answer to that question, and it all comes down to biology. You know, something really weird struck me when I was investigating who we are and how we get the results we do in our life. And the thing that I always overlooked was the fact we are biological. And that's a really strange thing to do, because irrespective of what we might think, we are controlled. We live in a biological body, we live in a biological world, and we are controlled by the natural laws of the planet above everything else. You know, it's an example is try and stop your heart beating. Try and stop breathing for a while. You can't do it. No matter, or walk on top of a 10-story building and meditate, pray, change your beliefs, convince yourself, use any technique you like, convince yourself you're going to step off and fly into the air. People in history have actually done that. But you know, as soon as you walk off, you're going to go straight down. Doesn't matter what other technique you try and use, nature rules everything. And it turns out that nature actually has rules about how we survive. Because the primary purpose of all living things, the way everything is wired, everything is designed with the principal purpose of making sure that it survives. Everything, that's its primary purpose, is to ensure that it survives. And how does something best ensure that it survives? By ensuring that it's the best that it can be. When you are thriving, or when any living thing is thriving, when it's the strongest, the best that it can be, it gives itself the greatest chance for survival. So nature is actually wired and designed to make sure that everything is striving to be the best that it can be, so that it has the greatest chance for survival. And every living thing has been given a mechanism, or what I call a machine, to ensure that, which is a brain. The brain is not, we think, oh yes, the brain, it's just there to keep us alive. It's not there to keep you alive. It's there to make sure that you become the best that you can be, so that you have the greatest chance for survival. It's there for you to thrive. And for humans, that means when we're at our best, not just as well as we can be physically, it means mentally and emotionally. It means being happy. It means being excited and living that feeling we sometimes call being in the flow of living our best life. We've all had moments like that. The brain is designed to make sure we live like that all the time, that we thrive so we have the greatest chance for survival. So here's where goal setting comes in. And what got me asking this question was really asking people that I work with quite often, and other people, and the people listening might like to ask themselves this question: what percentage of the goals that you set do you ever achieve? Yeah. Now, if you really think about that question, when I say to people, is it 100%? And they say, no. Is it 90? No. Is it 80? 50? 30? The average is about 2 to 3%.
Wow.
In other words, we're all busy out there setting goals and thinking, well, that's the key to success. I've got to have my goals and I've got to work hard towards them. And everybody else is telling me, set your goals. Look at me. Look, I set my goals and I achieved them. They're not telling the truth. We're not telling the truth to ourselves, because it doesn't really work. So why are we trying something that only has a 2% success rate? That's like going to a heart surgeon and saying, what's your success rate? Well, if it's only 2%, that's okay. I'm sure I'll be all right. You must know what you're doing. It's not the way it works. And there's a biological reason for that. If you accept that you are biologically designed to thrive, to be the best that you can be, and that nature has provided the means to ensure that, which is your brain, to interact with your environment and to make you, as I say, thrive, then one of the other ways that nature does that is it uses something that I call the law of efficiency. Through millions of years, nature has figured out the most efficient way to thrive. In other words, it's all based on using the least amount of energy for the best possible result. And this is a survival technique, because we might not be able to eat food for a week. Maybe millions of years ago, we couldn't find food for a week. But we had to be able to survive and have enough strength that when we were able to see the food after a week, we could catch it. So we, like everything else, are designed for biological efficiency, the maximum result for the minimum expenditure of energy. So how does this relate to goals? Well, imagine you had a technique, and I thought that I used to have this technique. Imagine you could find a way for your brain to show you what you wanted, what your goals should be. And, when I was lying on my mother's sofa, imagine if I'd done one of the seminars, got my books out and figured it all out, what I want to do. Now, for me, it turned out to be sailing the world, traveling and teaching all of these ideas about the brain that most people have never heard of, is a completely different approach, sharing it with people all around the world. And really helping people to make a major shift in their life. Now, if my brain had told me that's what I wanted to do, if I'd figured that out, I would have completely dismissed it and said it's insane. I wouldn't have, for two reasons. One, I didn't know that I could ever achieve it. What? Sailing a yacht? What? And the other one is I didn't even know that that's what I wanted. So the way your brain works is usually it doesn't show you the goal. It doesn't show you what you need to have in your life for you to thrive and be your best. And the reason it doesn't do that is because it's not efficient to do that. Because imagine your brain tells you what your ultimate goal is. Now, if it's something outside of your experience or beliefs, what are you going to do? You're going to look at it and say, hang on, is that actually right? I'm not sure if I want that, and I'm not sure if I could get it anyway. I don't know how to get it. So what are you doing? You're questioning, you're analyzing. You might say, I need to go and get some more information about this and find out about it. You're doing all these things. You're doubting. You're not taking action. In other words, you're wasting all that energy. You're not being biologically efficient. That's why your brain very rarely, it does occasionally, but very rarely it shows you what your goal is. And even if it was to show you the next 10 steps, so maybe you had another technique and you said to your brain, all right, I don't need to know the next, what my goal is. Just show me the next 10 steps in the right direction. So you have these 10 steps that you miraculously write out, and you look at, what do? You look at it and say, step number 3, I don't know how to do that. And is that really the right thing to do? Will it really lead on to step number 4? So maybe I need to go and do some research and go on YouTube and read some books and go to some seminars and think about it before I do anything. Totally inefficient. So the way your life works, and I've talked to so many successful people who all agree this is the way it happens, is that your brain just shows you the very next step.
Yeah.
And all you're supposed to do is take that next step. And when you take it, your brain shows you the next step. That's the most biologically efficient way to ensure that you are on the right path to thriving. So it makes total biological sense. And, you know, when I say I've talked to people about it, I remember talking to business people and saying to them, one gentleman I remember in particular, but this is quite a pattern, and saying, how did you become so successful in your life? How did you develop this big business and get all these things? You know what they usually say if they're really honest? They say, actually, I don't really know. It just sort of happened. I just took the next step and I just did things and it all just sort of came together. Exactly. That's the whole point. So instead of trying to do something that only has a 2% success rate, realize you've got a machine, a 500 trillion microprocessor computer, the most powerful computer in the world, designed for one purpose, and that's to make sure that you thrive by being the best that you can be so that you have the greatest chance for survival. All you need to do is use it the right way, and it's going to make sure all of the right things happen, and it's going to show you step by step exactly what you should be doing. And really, that's the biological approach, which ties in so much with spiritual teachings and other scientific teachings as well. Because what does it say in the Bible? It says, do not worry about what you shall eat, drink, or wear. It will all be provided for you. It doesn't say you need to earn it, you need to work for it, you need to set your goals, you need to have plans and strategies and figure it all out. You just need to know that it's going to come to you and you act accordingly. And it also says in the Bible, seek first, sorry to put in some biblical quotes, but it's so fascinating that spirituality teaches this, but it says in the Bible, seek first the kingdom of heaven and everything else will be added to you.
Yeah.
And it tells you the kingdom of heaven is within you. And how do you enter the kingdom of heaven? The Bible also tells you. How do you access the kingdom of heaven? You have to be like little children. Only little children can enter the kingdom of heaven. And what do little children do? They live in the moment. They trust and have faith and they're not setting goals and trying to figure stuff out and worrying about things. They're just letting life unfold. In other words, allowing their brain, this success mechanism, to do its job without interference. And really, that's what I realized I was doing differently. I was just letting stuff show up. I wasn't like I wasn't taking action. I wasn't acting on things. But I wasn't acting in a way that I was stressed, worried, trying to force things, thinking that things, weren't going to happen, or that I needed to earn more money this year than I did last year, or worried about problems. And when I didn't worry about problems, I know it sounds bizarre, but I literally didn't have any. my brain took care of things to make sure I didn't really have any problems. And I think that's the key.
Yeah, it's the simplicity. It's you got to keeping it simple, not overthinking and allowing this compulsive thought-generating machine giving us those internal dialogues that it just throw us off, way off track. And for instance, I'm sure you've probably may have heard of this. I heard that once upon a time, and I think Steve Jobs had done this for the longest time, that he had this practice that, you know, when he woke up in the morning, he didn't think about, he didn't want to make all these mental processes of trying to decide what he wanted to wear in the morning. So he wore the same thing every day. I mean, obviously, you know, probably hundreds of jeans, hundreds of blacks, you know, T-shirts. Everything looked the same, but he wore the same thing every single day because he thought that was just, he was saving energy, saving the process of thinking, so he can let open that room up for the rest of the day of where he needed it most. So it's kind of the same principle too. Would you think?
Yeah, you know, thinking is the problem, and it all comes down to how your brain works. I actually have created a 4-part brain model, which explains that there are 4 different regions in your brain. So this has nothing to do with the subconscious or some sort of theoretical concept. There are 4 physical regions in your brain, and they all have a different function. And one of them is what I call your rational thinking brain, which is at the top of your head. But that's not the part of your brain that is designed to make you thrive. Because your thinking brain, in other words, your thoughts, they only are ever containing information you already know. Things, all your limitations and all your worries and, you know, all your experiences that you've had in your life, you verbalize and you visualize and you put them into words through your thinking brain. But there's another part of your brain that's the part that's the secret part. In the Bible, they refer to this part as the Holy of Holies. This is the part that makes you thrive, and it's what I call your creative brain. Because when you think about it, where does creativity come from? Where does imagination come from? Where do you get aha moments? Where do you get intuition, those gut feelings? Where do you get these ideas that you just make the right decision and it all works out perfectly and you're not overthinking it?
Yeah.
Where does all this stuff come from? Every great achiever, including Steve Jobs, has agreed they don't know where it comes from. It didn't come from their own thoughts. Inspiration came from somewhere else. And this is where your problem-solving ability is. Because most of the time what people are trying to do is they're stuck with a problem and they're trying to figure out what to do, and they're stressed about it and they're saying, I need to solve this problem and I'm so stressed and what do I want and how can I achieve my goals and how can I solve this problem and how can I do this and how can I be happy? What they're actually doing is they're activating the wrong part of the brain, because the part of the brain that I call the creative brain is shut down when you're in a state of fear, worry, and anxiety. And on my website, I talk about this in more detail. We probably don't have time to explain how scientifically and biologically this works. But what you need to do is to learn how to activate the part of your brain that's supposed to be in charge, so that you see the right opportunities, you see the right things to do, you see the wrong things not to do. And not only that, you somehow find yourself doing them, not with any struggle, not with any force, but what they call being in the flow, being in the zone. And again, great achievers talk about the state where it's almost effortless and everything's going well. And yes, they're putting in effort, but somehow there's something helping them along the way as well, something guiding them. And, you know, people have used all sorts of descriptions for this, from being in the flow, being in the zone, enlightened, if you like, and all of these different things. But they're all describing a quality that is beyond our own trying to figure stuff out and trying to force and struggle through things. And it comes from this other part of the brain. And, you know, really, when we learn how to activate that and we learn how to make that our default state, then everything works in our life, you know, and we don't need to struggle. And in fact, struggle is what blocks that. And that's why, again, in the Bible, it says 365 times, be not afraid. Be not afraid. That's not an idea, it's an instruction. Because when you are afraid, when you're doubting, when you don't have faith, what your physiology does is it activates the wrong part of your brain. It activates the stress part, and the creative part gets shut down. So what the Bible's really saying is, yes, you are designed to have everything the best for you in your life. That's why you're here. You know, God will give it all to you. But God can't give it to you if you're not using the machine the right way.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, you know, yes, here's a motor car and it'll get you down 100 miles down the road. But if you don't drive it properly, I'm sorry, I gave you the car and I even gave you the manual on how to drive it. But if you're not driving it the right way, you're not going to get there. I'm sorry, you know, I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
That's why learning how to use the brain the right way is so critical.
Wow. Before we move forward, where can people find you? For those who are watching, your website scrolling on the bottom, but let people know where they can find you. Give me your website and what they can find on your website.
Yeah, well, it's just my name, liamnaden.com, LIAMNADEN. And there's a lot of stuff there. There's an explanation as to how the brain works. And in fact, I've also got at the moment, a free download, which is a cheat sheet I created, which shows really just the simple 3-step process, the only 3 things you need to do. And these were the only 3 things I did, in a nutshell, to get me from being homeless on my mother's couch to bouncing back and sailing around the world and living the life of my dreams. It's 3 simple steps. Most people have completely, when they read this, they go, oh, it finally makes sense that we just need to act biologically. We need to act naturally. And you mentioned right at the beginning something about, is this difficult? This isn't difficult. The only reason it's difficult is we've forgotten how to do it. We've forgotten how to live naturally. We've been brought up with all these ideas about life's difficult, life's hard, we have to struggle, we have to put in all this effort, we have to figure it all out, we have to prepare for the future and make all of these plans. And, you know, that's not the natural way to live. But we've forgotten that because of the pressures of the way of society is set up.
Yeah.
So all of my website and all my work is about coming back to understanding, not in any sort of vague woo-woo way about, you know, oh yes, just let go and allow life to happen and it'll all come to you. It's nothing about that. This is all proven science. This is the way it works. And I proved it to myself because I lived the way it didn't work and the way it does work. And I've also proved it helping other people with, because when you get this, life actually starts being what it is, which is, it's supposed to be an adventure. It's not supposed to be a struggle.
Yeah.
Struggle is unnatural. Struggle is not doesn't make any biological sense. Struggle does not help you survive, so it's not actually natural, and it doesn't exist in the natural world apart from in a very few special circumstances. It's not the way nature works. So it's all, anyway, it's all on my website, liamnaden.com.
Yeah. And in this day and age, with all the technology and opportunities, we shouldn't be struggling. You know, I think it's, you know, we've been programmed over decades and generations, you know, of establishments out there just telling us, you have to be this, you have to be that. And it's like, whoa, hold on. He's like, no. So, yeah, and it's kind of, it's in a sense, it's deep. It's kind of like deprogramming ourselves.
That's what it is. Totally. It's developing new habits. You know, it's a little bit like, you know, if somebody comes along to you and says, you're an expert on nutrition or on weight loss, how do I lose weight? We say, well, it's very simple. You just stop eating the wrong foods and you eat the right foods. You develop different habits.
Yeah.
It's very simple. And when you understand that, you say, well, that makes total sense. But my entire life, I'm overweight, you say to yourself, this person says, and I've been eating I'm addicted to all the wrong foods. And I hate exercise. And I hate all the thought of the right foods doesn't do me any good. Well, so that it doesn't get away from the fact that you've developed all the wrong habits, and all those wrong habits of what is causing you the problem. So if you want to get rid of the problem, you have to change your habits to the right ones. And that's really what I work with people and teach them about, is changing the habits of the way you live your life so that you're not activating the wrong part of your brain. You're actually shutting down the one that's holding you back, that thinks it's protecting you. It's what I call the survival brain, which is located at the back of the head. Mm-hmm. It thinks it's protecting you, but all it does is keep you stuck. It keeps you stressed, afraid, and unable to see what you should be doing with your life. It keeps you confused, and it also makes you create problems in your life. So you've got to develop a new habit, and that's about how to trigger the other part of your brain and stop triggering that part of your brain. And it's all very simple to not easy to do because we've got a lifetime of habits to change, but it's very simple to understand how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of might be, well, it's still on topic, but when it comes to the psychology, what do you think some of the psychological benefits of spending time in, especially in nature, as you do? I mean, going out on the boat, sailing, going to the forest, how this can improve, these methods of that you speak about.
Absolutely, all of those things. But just on that, I think one of the bad habits, if you like, that we've got into as a society is we're looking for ways to improve our life, which is good, but we're looking at the surface. It's a bit like you walk into a room in your house and you see a crack on the wall. And you go, I've got a problem, I need to fix that crack. So you figure out, you go on YouTube or you go to the shop and buy all the stuff and you figure out how to fix the crack. And you look at it and say, great, problem solved. And you come in the next day to the room and there's 2 cracks on the wall. And again, you busily do it and you go, great, I'm solving my problems. And then you come in the next day and you know where this is going. You end up spending your life patching over cracks in the wall.
Band-aiding.
And you never... And at some point, you have to say to yourself, what's causing the cracks in the wall? Maybe it's the foundations of the house. And of course, that's what it is. So that's where you need to, and of course, when you go and fix the foundations, you don't look in the obvious place. You look at the cause, not where the symptoms are.
Yeah.
And you fix the problem. And then you don't have to deal with the problem again. But coming back to nature, we've got in this habit of looking for quick fixes. So we say to ourselves, well, and we create these routines. I used to do this all the time. Right, I've got to get up at 6 o'clock and I've got to meditate and I've got to go for a walk and then I've got to do some exercise and I've got to do my affirmations and my visualizations and then I've got to come up with my plans and do all these things. But what you're doing is you're just staying busy rather than allowing your brain to naturally show you exactly the right thing you should be doing at the right time. That's about getting inside and then just saying, and what tends to happen is instead of having to create a routine, your brain leads you to doing the right thing. You start eating the right foods and you don't like the wrong foods anymore. You start developing new habits. You just don't want to talk to that person or you don't want to watch that news program that makes you feel bad. And you do productive things, but they're different for everybody. Everybody has this blueprint, if you like, that the brain knows what you at your best look like. For some people, it's sailing around the world. For other people, it's writing books or whatever it is. But everybody's got their uniqueness that their brain is there to bring out in its best form. So what I tend to do with people is really show them there's only one thing stopping you from using the right part of your brain, and that is you are triggering the wrong part. And the wrong part shuts down this other creative part when you activate it. So all you really need to do is identify what is the triggers. What is it that's causing my brain to activate this wrong thing? And then you just go around and start eliminating the triggers.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're no longer activating the wrong part of your brain and you find your actions are just a lot better. And that's what actually works rather than saying, oh, I've got to sit down and figure out and I've got to do all of these things. I've read another book and it tells me do this practice and make sure you go, do some breathing exercises or do this technique of using your hands in a certain way or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You might do some of those things if it's what's going to be best for you, but you don't need to sit down and try and force it all to happen. It's all going to happen naturally. The right things are going to happen for you naturally. And you're going to enjoy doing the right things more. You're going to enjoy if it means walking around and spending time in nature, because you're going to be a lot more connected to who you actually are. You're going to be in tune, in harmony with the essence of yourself. And so you're going to live a natural life. And all of these unnatural things like, struggling and trying to figure stuff out and forcing things, they're just going to fall away out of your life. And you're going to replace it with something much easier and much more rewarding and much more productive.
Yeah. Yeah. I've realized, it took a while for me to realize that. When things, and that's another thing too, is like you'd probably definitely recognize this, is on any particular day, any day, something's not working right, and I'm trying to force myself or force something to work the way I want it to work or work out. And then I step back and I halt. I stop and I go, well, hold on a second. It's probably not working because it's not supposed to. It's in some reason, form, shape. Nature does not want me to mess with it, so I'll leave it alone. I'll come back to it. If it's supposed to happen, it will happen. What are your thoughts about? I mean, that's pretty much what you're saying, because it's like I see that all the time, and I recognize that all the time. If it doesn't work, move on, do something else.
Well, it's a basic fundamental law of nature, which is the law of least resistance. Mm-hmm. All of nature works on least resistance. If you watch water running down a stream, it doesn't get to a rock and try and force its way through. It just goes around the rock. If you ride a bicycle into the wind, it's going to be a lot more difficult, and you're not going to get very far, and it's going to be a lot more tiring than if you just go with the wind. So there's this law of nature, and again, everything has spent millions of years to get to the most efficient way possible, which is to say that it's the path of least resistance that creates the greater result. Like with the bicycle, the less resistance, the faster you go.
Yeah,
it's a law of physics and of nature. So we're designed like that as well. We're not designed to resist. We're designed to go with things. That doesn't mean you don't do anything. It means you do what's there, but you don't doubt, you don't worry, you don't think, well, hang on, if I do that, it might be the wrong thing, or what's going to happen if I do that, or that's scary, or whatever. That's all coming from this part of your brain that's telling you things that are lies, that's trying to pretend or prevent you from seeing that you have this infinite ability that to thrive using this other part of your brain. And of course, that's why goal setting is a form of resistance as well. Instead of just accepting what's there in your path right in this moment and going with it, you're trying to force something in a particular direction. And how many times, I wonder if this has happened to you, it's certainly happened to me, where I was so determined to get something, and I set my goal, and I said, I really want that, and I'm going to feel so great when I get it, and I'm going to put all of my focus and all of my attention on getting that job, or winning that event, or that competition, or making that amount of money, and you don't achieve it. That's the thing. And then you're that person, thank goodness I didn't have a relationship. Oh, that would have been a disaster if I'd done that. So again, you think, coming back to what you said right at the beginning, you think you know what you want. You think you're in control of your life, but you're not. But your brain, this infinite computer, this most powerful computer in the world that's designed for only one purpose, and that's to make you thrive and be the best you can be, it knows what you want, and you don't need to, it knows how to get it for you. That's what it's there for. So I often say to people, if you're struggling to reach a goal and you're really not making much progress, it's your brain trying to give you a message to say, I don't want you to go after that. I'm going to make it as difficult as I can for you to get it until you realize that it's too hard, and to give up and follow me instead. Let me show you the right way to go, where to go, one step at a time. So I'm going to make life difficult until you get the message that you're doing it wrong. Yeah. Another law of nature, if it's difficult, it's wrong. It's not natural. Yeah. So, that really, to me, I found all these biological explanations for what had been not only spiritual teachings, but also practical experiences that explained why I struggled and why I didn't struggle, why I got bad results, why I got good results. It all comes back to how we're biologically wired and designed.
Yeah. I'm seeing it. The way you explain it, I see it. I could see the operation of it, and it definitely makes sense. Wow. Yeah. Liam, that's awesome. I appreciate it. And for those who are watching or listening, definitely go check out his website at LIAMNADEN, Liam Naden, and go to the website and check out and download the free free cheat sheet download on getting unstuck fast. Yes. Definitely.
We're not biologically designed to be stuck, and you can get unstuck very quickly, and your brain is going to thank you for it and say, finally you're out of the way, and I can bring you what I'm here to bring you, all the good stuff in your life.
Yeah.
And we've all had experiences of this where we call them miracles or good luck or synchronicity, and they happen to us occasionally. We think, oh, I wish that happened more often. It's designed to happen all the time. Life is just, you are supposed to have unexpected things show up all the time when you say, wow, how did that happen? How did I meet that person? Where did that opportunity come from? You're not dealing with some little limited machine here. You're dealing with the most powerful computer in the world, and it knows what you want. It knows how to get it for you.
Yeah.
And when you start using it the right way, you start seeing all these things start showing up, and you just have to step back like I did and said, this is a lot more than coincidence. This is a lot more than good luck. There's something going on here. There's somebody, if you like, or something, some intelligence that's got my back, that actually wants things to be good in my life. It's bringing me good things. So I'm going to maybe just trust it a bit more. And that's what comes from understanding how the biology works. It's not difficult to trust it. You just know that's how it works. So that's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly understanding the world of metaphysics, quantum entanglement, the brain, how things are. Hey.
It's actually quite simple, though, isn't it? We don't need. I used to read all these books on all these complicated subjects, which were interesting. They're certainly fascinating. But if it's about being like a child, it's to enter the kingdom of heaven. Then it's actually about unlearning a lot of stuff. Stop, not trying to confuse ourselves and make it more complicated than it is. Children can do this, and we need to be like little children if we want to run our brain the right way. And it doesn't mean you don't learn things, and it doesn't mean you don't investigate things, but you do the right things. You don't just spend all your time confusing yourself with more information, a lot of which I found was useless information. And I kept thinking, I need to learn more. You don't need to learn more. You need to learn the right things. And you'll learn the right things when you need to learn them. Your brain will show you what you need to learn when you need to learn. It'll give you exactly the right direction to head in, if you just let that happen rather than thinking I've got to read a book a day, or I went through a phase like that. I did speed reading courses, that I need to read more, I need to read faster, I need to cram information into my thinking brain, which is a limited part of my brain. I need to do all this stuff. It's just not, you don't get results that way.
No. Yeah, definitely don't force it. Let it come naturally. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Liam, blessings, my friend. Blessings, my friend. Thank you for joining us today and blessing us with this knowledge and this information. Definitely. And again, everybody go check out his website. Those will be in the show notes, liamnaden.com, and go to the website and download the cheat sheet. Again, Liam, blessings. Thank you, my friend. Safe travels too. Safe travels. Is it raining by chance? Is it raining where you are?
Yes. Can you hear it?
I can hear
it. It is raining. Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. No worries. I
live in my motorhome, and we're traveling around Italy, and so it's not as insulated as a house.
Yeah. Cool. It's always good to rain, man. It's always good to rain. Yeah. Liam, blessings. Thank you again. Welcome back anytime too. If you got something, a new approach, a new anything, other downloads or anything that's coming out and traveling to Florida or the United States, give us a holler. And
I have a book coming out next year.
Heck yeah.
And it's all about how nature shows us. There are 10 principles that nature uses naturally all of the time, that when you use these 10 principles, I call them qualities, you thrive. It's how nature creates perfection in itself, and we're the only species who've forgotten how to use these.
Wow.
So that's the basis of my book that's coming out next year.
Cool.
Is to relearn, to realize if you just apply these 10 natural qualities that all the rest of nature uses, you are going to thrive. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
And you can forget all the struggle and the problems and all those unnatural things. Your life is going to turn into what it's supposed to be.
Wow.
A magical experience.
Yeah. I definitely want to share that. Let us know, and
Thank you.
have you back on. We'll share the book.
Sounds great.
Cool. So before we wrap up, what would you like to offer as a takeaway? Words of wisdom.
Can we do it in another 20 minutes? No.
I was about to say that. I was like, dude, this whole show was full of it. It was like, wow. Yeah,
I guess it's just a couple of
Maybe
things just to step back for a moment. And if people are listening, just tune in. Do you feel a resonance about what I'm talking about? Because often we have this. You will have inside you this feeling that something of what I've said is right. And it's not intellectually right. Although it's logical. Everything I've said, I haven't said anything that relies on you to believe anything. I'm trying to explain things, because I'm over the people who just tell me do this and it'll work. I want to see the proof, and I want to understand it. And is it logical? Does it make sense? So everything I do now is logical. It's provable. It's scientific. But if there's something in you that says, this makes sense, and maybe I should find out a bit more about this, well, take that next step and just check out my website. I mean, most of the stuff there is free, and you'll learn an awful lot, and it'll all make logical sense. It's not some woo-woo stuff. It's about practical, logical, easy to apply stuff, and then you'll get it, and you'll go, why did I ever think about life the other way, in any other way? And that's when things really start changing your life. And there's that cheat sheet which sort of summarizes it in a powerful way about how this all works. But stop worrying about what's going to happen and having any expectation with things, and just take the next step. That's the secret to life, really.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, what do you got to lose? Download it, try it. If you don't like it, fine. You got nothing to lose.
Well, it's the same with anything. What have you got to lose by just doing something different and new right now without even thinking about it?
Exactly.
We make it too hard for ourselves. That's the problem. And life's not supposed to be hard.
Exactly. We think too much.
Use the wrong part of our brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Liam, blessings, my friend. Safe travels.
Thank you, and the very same to you. And thank you so much for having me as your guest.
You're very welcome.
It's been an honor.
Very welcome. Likewise. Thank you, everybody, for joining the Seance on Conscious Radio Network, and we will see you next time.